everyone, it's Mari. Thanks so much for joining me on my channel today. The photo that I'm going to be scrapping is a photo from about 5 or 6 years ago, a picture of my son when he was in track and field. And I've already primed my paper here using that gesso that I was just showing you there. It's a Faber-Castell gesso. And I just put a really light layer on that paper to prime it a bit. And I am going to be doing some mixed media on this layout today. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do on this layout 100% for sure. And so you'll see me just kind of cutting some papers into strips here at the beginning as I'm trying to decide how I want this layout to go. And I'm using a variety of papers and embellishments from, I believe, the August and September hip kits. And the photograph that I showed you there at the beginning has some greens and blues and kind of orange tones in it. And these two kits were perfect for that. They had all of those colors in them. So it was easy to find products to use from those kits. That journaling card that I have to the right of the photograph, I thought at the beginning I was going to use that, and then I decided not to in the end. So you'll just see me kind of playing around with some things, and I actually kind of really changed it up from where I started. So I'm going to be using this star stencil, and I think that just comes from my stash. I'm not sure if that was from another kit. And I'm just going to take some glossy gel medium and I'm going to put these stars down onto the paper. And you can see that I've already used a star punch to cut out some stars on that paper here and there. And I'm not 100% sure what this paper is. It might be maybe Ellie Studio. I don't think it's Amy Tan, but anyways, it's from one of those two kits. I'm pretty sure this is from the September kit. And I'm just going to continue to put that gel medium down there quite thickly. And it's just going to add some texture to the background. And of course it's clear, but it's really glossy, it's really shiny, and it does add a really nice effect to the paper. And I'm going to add a little bit of color with some watercolors onto that, over top of that too. So here you can just see me messing around with my iPad there. I usually watch something while I'm scrapping, so I don't remember what I was watching. I might have been watching Scandal or something like that on Netflix, but so that's what I was doing. So if you see me leaning forward or putting my hand up to the top of the screen there, that's what I'm doing. So right now I've just taken some water and I've laid it down on my mixed media mat, and I'm just going to, at first I thought I might use that distress pen that was, that distress marker that was in the kit, in the color add-on, and it's not really working well for me for what I wanted it to do. And so I kind of abandon that plan and I move on to some different mediums here, and I think I end up mostly using my cheapo little watercolor palette from Michaels. So I'm just using that big watercolor brush and some water for my spray bottle on the side there. So I'm just going to do a lot of blotting and adding a bunch of different colors here. And because I've primed it with that gesso, it's actually quite easy to add a variety of different mediums on here using some water because the paper is protected. So you can see I'm taking a water brush and seeing if I can get a little bit more on there, but I really want it to be subtle. I don't want it to be too dark because as you'll see, I'm adding a bunch of other things onto the layout for embellishments, and I just want that color in the background just to be really, really light. So I'm putting it on there, I'm taking it off and putting it on and taking it off, and yeah. Anyways, it's a little bit of a tedious process here, but eventually I get it to the spot where I like it. So there you can just see the very edge of that watercolor palette there at the bottom of the screen. And oftentimes what I do with that palette is I'll just take it and spray it all down with water, spray the whole palette, and then I can just mix whatever colors I want right on that palette. So, and then sometimes I'll pick it up and mix it on the silicone mat there too. So I'm just blotting that on around, and it's kind of, I've mixed the colors together to kind of make that teal color. And as I'm creating the layout here, I do predominantly use the color of that minty green teal for sure. That's a color that I just absolutely love. Do you know what color is my favorite though? Is Tiffany blue. Man, I love that color. I don't know if it's sort of like subconscious because I really love Tiffany products, but yeah, Tiffany blue's got to be my favorite. Anyways, this mint green's pretty close second, and I'm just popping it down there in different little spots, blotting it on with that brush. That's just really cheap old watercolor brush from Michael's. It's not an expensive brush at all. And just popping some color on there. Still working away at that. My paper does warp a little bit here, but oftentimes if you just take your paper when it's dry and you turn it over and you roll it the opposite way, you put some pressure on it and then put lots of adhesive on it and stick it down to another piece of paper, it actually does the trick of flattening it out nicely. Although I did see someone talking about, and I did see that trick of putting it through the mink and flattening it out really nicely. And I don't have a mink, but wow, that's sure one of the reasons I think I might get one, because it looks pretty cool. Although I've heard of a few different tricks along the way that people have used to take that warping out. So I'm just gonna take that and splatter that on a little bit. And you can see I've splattered some color shine on there a little bit too. And I've also adhered it to some really pretty mint green cardstock. So now I took that paper, I think it's from the Happy Things collection from Pink Fresh Studios, and I'm going to use that as kind of a focal piece in not really the center of the layout, but just kind of off a little bit to the right. And mostly because I punched some stars there and I didn't really like them, so I wanted to cover that up. And then you can just see that I create some balance using the embellishments that I'm going to put on here. So there's that that photograph of Jordan, and in the photograph is a picture of he and his track coach from high school. And what I've done is I've just put some embellishment, or I'm sorry, I've just put some paper layers in behind it, including this paper that I'm roughing up there that I've just actually put that through a punch to create that that punch on the sides, those holes on the sides. And then I just took a piece of dictionary and some other little pattern papers, and I'm just going to create the mat for the photograph there. So getting back to that picture again, the picture is of my son and his track coach. In fact, she was his hurdles coach from the time he was probably about 12 until he graduated when he was 17. And he absolutely adored her. She was so good with him. She, really, really worked hard with him to take him as far as he could in his sport. And she was also his biology teacher and just a really great person. She was very, very dedicated to her craft and to sport as well. So she did work really hard with Jordan to get him to a really high level with his hurdles. And in his last year of provincial track and field, he was in the final race of the 100-meter hurdles and was in second place through the entire race. And he grazed the last hurdle and he ended up fifth. But that fifth was like a gold for him because he just, he did really, really well and the race was really close. And so this is just documenting that. And you'll see me add some embellishments and some journaling here as we go along. So I'm just attaching things there with my stapler and getting things stuck down. And now you'll just see me start to embellish the rest of the layout with a variety of little ephemera bits and pieces. And then of course some alphas for the title. So I like that layer where it is on the layout, and I've just put that little ephemera piece from Amy Tan on the side there with a little paper clip that's shaped like an arrow. And now I'm just taking some other little ephemera bits and pieces and adding them to the side, including that little acetate camera and I've got some wood grain pieces, not wood grain, but you know what I mean? Wow, it's late at night when I'm doing this, so my words. I can't find my words right now, but anyhow, it's all good. You know what I mean? That best is made out of wood. And I'm going to add just some other bits like that really nice, pretty little glittery star and so on. So Just going to try to create some balance on that left side, because on the right side, I'm going to put the title. So I don't want it to be too heavy on one side and not the other. And sometimes that can be really tricky, right? You can kind of get it, top heavy or bottom heavy, or from this in this particular layout from side to side. I want to make sure that the embellishments are symmetrical. So that's what I'm working on here. Just sticking those all down with a variety of different kinds of adhesive. And those chipboard pieces, I often like to put down with the liquid glue instead of tape runner or whatever. I just find that it's going to stay there a little bit better, and especially if there's gesso or something like that, mixed media on the background, because that stuff does take away from things sticking to it for sure. So I don't know if you can see the gel medium on the background, but it's there, and I'm going to try to show you at the end that the shine factor there that you get with that gel medium. It is quite nice. It doesn't show up really super well on the video, but it does look nice in person, in real life, in reality. You can see that I rounded the corners of that base paper there as well, on that on top of that cardstock. I like the looks of that. And now I'm just going to take a variety of different alphas and create a title. So the title that I created is Facing Hurdles Together, because that's kind of the story that I'm documenting here. So you know what? This layout is almost done, and I'm just showing you there some of the other little bits and pieces that I added. So stay tuned for some still shots so you can see the other little bits and pieces of things that I did. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.